Welcome back to the Bedrock Guide. Today we're going to be building a concrete factory, but before we get started with that, I want to give you a quick world update and a quick channel update. You might notice there's some skulk in here in the storage room that wasn't there before. This is all part of the theme. It's been planned for a very long time. And if we walk up here to the surface, oh yeah, this is just the beginning. All of this, it's gonna have skulk. All of that is gonna have skulk. The gold farm, definitely gonna have skulk. Once I get a roof on it, it's still gonna happen. Someday. Not sure about skulk over here. I've begun the process of adding in the actual roads. They're not textured yet, and nothing around it is textured yet. So it's very early on in the process, and I gotta fix that again. This seems to be happening more and more regularly. If you name tag a creaking, they're not supposed to despawn. This guy despawns all the time and then ends up out here. I don't know what to do. Maybe sleep will fix it. You might notice also, I've got a building for the flower farm. I didn't do a ton of detailing on the sides because most of this is gonna get covered up by another building probably right next to it, or some trees at the very least. But I'm pretty happy with it. The only thing left to do on the flower farm from the previous episode is to put a lever inside of here and maybe hide some of this redstone. And the last bit of news I wanna share with you for the world update before we get into channel update stuff. Again, I mentioned this in my previous video. This has reverted back into a single player world, and so I have pruned all of the chunks that were built on over here, and I've got a really cool idea for a future project that utilizes this space over here. And honestly, I didn't even realize there's a second island over here, and I got a really cool idea for how we can connect these up and make a really fun, unique base that I've never done anything like it before. Not gonna tell you what it is, that's for another day, but I'm gonna go ahead and finish working on the roads, and while I do that, I'm gonna do a little bit of a voiceover just to give you a channel update on what to expect in the very near future. It's all exciting stuff. Can't wait to tell you about it right now. So the first thing that I want to mention, my personal world that I play on here and my community worlds are relocating to a new home. For the last several years, I've been partnered with Nodecraft, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to work with them, and I still highly recommend them going forward. But I've also been given a new opportunity to partner with Sparkedhost. So thank you so much, Sparkedhost, for this new exciting opportunity. And for everybody watching, if you're looking for a place to host your Minecraft worlds, check out the link in the description. Next, the Bedrock Guide is coming to an end. But fear not, the same BluJay content that you're used to is getting even better. And now when I say that it's coming to an end, we're finishing this base. Let's be clear. I'm just looking ahead several months down the road toward what's next, and honestly, I've already started shifting my content styles, which you may have noticed. The survival content has become a little less guide-like and more traditional Let's Play. That will make a full shift that direction once this season is over. But for those of you that love tutorials, don't worry. I plan to replace the tutorial aspect of the guide with many more creative world tutorials and R&D videos to supplement my survival content. I think this is going to be a good and sustainable change for me, which will free me up to just have fun playing the game and to not worry about every aspect of a survival video needing some sort of in-depth explanation, which can easily be done in creative tutorials. So I'm excited for the shift on the channel. I hope you are too. And you know, maybe we'll throw in some other things as well. I hear RL craft is pretty fun. And with that, I've run out of concrete again. I don't know about you, but I can start seeing the vision of this coming together. This wall right here, it's still not done yet. This is like 40 stacks of blue concrete, and I'm completely out of sand and gravel. Thank goodness I have a flower farm. I think it's like 8 stacks of cornflowers as well. But allow me to give you a quick bird's eye view of the area to show you what I've done. I've got some land here that was not there before. It is very hollow underneath, but don't worry, I lit it up. Tons of torch spam to keep all the mobs away. And you know, they're all spawning on the surface instead. I've also got the main road leading out to the main gate, which is not done yet. And even though I've got some blue walls in place, they're not textured. They're flat. They look pretty ugly. I'm gonna get that taken care of at some point as well, but the focus for today is the concrete factory, which I believe is gonna go probably right here. And I'm not quite sure how much space that's gonna take up yet. I don't know if I'm gonna build it above ground or below ground. I don't even have a design. So we're gonna jump into the creative test world here in just a minute, but just to cast the vision for the rest of this base, I only have a few things that I wanna build over here that have function. So a lot of this is going to be decorative, and I've got some pretty cool ideas of what that's going to be. A lot of that might take place on live streams, so make sure to join those and hang out with me. And then we'll shift focus over here to the farming area, build a couple things over here, and then the base is done, but this wall right here as well is going to require so much concrete and so many other materials. So I think we better get jumping over to the test world. I need a good design, and every good design starts with a little bit of R&D. If you didn't know, TNT will drop 100% of the blocks that it blows up. It didn't used to be that way on Bedrock Edition, but they changed that, which is going to be very advantageous for the design I want to come up with. So I want to see how many blocks around this, if it's just sitting on the surface, this will blow up. So here we go. Oh, that's a lot. I do believe that this was the center point. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. So 2 to 3 blocks away on the surface, and then 1 block below, but not quite as far. Can I be a little bit more accurate? Maybe without blowing up my stage. My goal is to aim for 100% of blocks to be blown up every single time a TNT fires, and I want as many blocks as possible to maximize the use of my TNT. This stuff ain't cheap. So if I drop a TNT into a 3x3 block like this that's only too high, will it leave any blocks standing? It will not. Beautiful. Let's make it bigger. All right, this is a 5x5 space, still only too high. How many blocks will be left over with this? Oh, okay. I did not expect that to happen. Will it do that every time? And there we go. Let's try it one more time. Will the blue concrete stay in place? And everything else is gone. Oh, good. After having way too much fun blowing up unnecessary amounts of TNT, I think I've got a solid plan. This is nowhere close to being a finished design, but it does give me a proof of concept that we can do this with 4 stacks of concrete and wrap it all the way around one piece of ancient debris. If you didn't know, ancient debris is blast resistant, so it will not blow up when the TNT blows up all the other blocks around it. We can also use obsidian, but I may need to move that block, and I'll show you why here in just a minute. But this is the proof of concept right here. And the thing about this that makes me incredibly happy is this is exactly 32 blocks of concrete, 1/2 stack, every single time we blow up one piece of TNT. And if we have it perfectly aligned like this, the TNT will always drop in that hole. It will never land off to the side, or at least the 100 times that I tested it, it never happened. There's always a first. We'll see. Check it out. Of course, I could not have planned that. This worked perfectly. I'm serious. I tested it like 100 times. That is the first time that ever happened. On test number 102, this is how it's actually supposed to work. There it goes, perfectly in to the slot, and there goes all the TNT. That's how it's supposed to work, and I'm very concerned that the one time I said it would work flawlessly, it ended up having a flaw. I'm gonna take a closer look at that here in a second, but you might notice all the TNT went off to the side. That is exactly 32 blocks. We pick it up and it goes into a stack. Eventually that will go into auto storage, but once in a while we might have something like that happen where the blocks get stuck on the ancient debris. If we did something like this and put a block here, because this is where the concrete is gonna go, and position the piston right here, this will be extended by default, but it will temporarily pull it down and water can flush this off into storage. I think that could be a possibility, but we do need to solve this problem first. And after a little bit of bird brain problem solving, I've got the start of an idea. This right here, this is it, I hope. This should prevent any nonsense with the TNT. There is no gap anywhere that it could get stuck going down. This is how these pistons are normally going to be, with this ancient debris retracted, and this layer right here is going to be the feed where the concrete comes in. It'll fill in, it'll fill in, it'll fill in, and once it reaches the last spot, this will activate and push that down, and I'm going to program this to stay down, maybe with some sort of a pulse extender, while the TNT is deployed, and this ancient debris should protect the pistons from being blown up. Absolutely perfect. Fail-proof. Very expensive, but fail-proof. Here's what's next. We're not going to start with hardened concrete. We're going to start with concrete powder and some water and an observer and a regular piston. We'll get some wool, maybe choose a different color. Let's go yellow. And here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to have a piston right here at the very end with a couple blocks like this. Maybe the observer goes here. The water goes here. I'm going to let that run free for just a second. And then if I connect up this observer with the piston using some redstone, it should push the concrete powder away as soon as it detects that it's gone there, and there it goes. However, we have this problem now, and I think we might need to use either a repeater on a 4-tick delay or maybe a locking repeater. Let's see. I don't like that. The name of the game is speed and not getting stuck. That's getting stuck. I got some tinkering to do. In classic YouTuber style, I did a little too much tinkering off camera. This is the result of a lot of tinkering, and some of this works, some of it doesn't, but that's the process of trial and error. And the end result is this right here. That's it. That's the whole concrete factory. I do want to preface this by saying I'm not actually going to do a step-by-step tutorial in this survival world video. Ironically, I've spent most of the time in the creative world, so we're going to get back over to survival here in just a second to build this thing. But before we do, I'm going to explain how it works, and if you want to see a full step-by-step tutorial for this build, go ahead and drop a like, and if we get maybe 200 likes, that'll give me clear indication that you guys want to see exactly how to build this block for block. So let's take a quick look at how this works. You might notice this observer right here. This is what activates the whole thing, and then there's some water down here that's flowing into a 1x1 hole, and any concrete powder that sits on this block right here is going to touch the side of that water and immediately become hardened concrete. That's where this observer comes in. If I face this block right here, I can drop one concrete powder on top. It will immediately activate the piston and push this stuff over, and it will also activate this dropper, which can refill my concrete supply. If you're going to do this, you're going to want to fill up your entire inventory, especially if you're going AFK, because you don't want anything more than just the first slot to have concrete powder. That way you can just sit here, this will refill you, and if it doesn't match the color of concrete powder that you got in your inventory, it will just drop it back into these hoppers and cycle it back through the system. Every time concrete passes this observer right here, it's going to trigger this counter that's made from a crafter with a compared crafter. This crafter is telling us that we want a signal strength of 9, and this crafter right here is telling us we want a signal strength of 8 plus 1 equals 9. Each piece of redstone dust should represent the number of pieces of concrete that have passed this observer right here. Obviously, that's not the correct timer because I've messed up my system. Let me go ahead and reset it. And while we're resetting it, you should know that the bottom dropper should always have 7 and the top dropper should always have 1, so that this crafter only receives 1 item at a time and it cycles through everything properly. The first block has just gone in front of the first observer there, and you can see that there is now 1 redstone in the crafter to count 1 piece of concrete. If I do it again, it'll push over, there's another piece of concrete and another piece of redstone. And if I do this and repeatedly drop concrete, we now have 7 pieces of redstone dust to match the 7 pieces of concrete in here. And all that's left to do is for this row of concrete to get pushed over into this slot right here, triggering this observer one more time, and then this crafter is going to fill up and then rapid dump all of the items into this hopper minecart and funnel it back into the system to start counting again. And while all of that is dumping back into the dropper system, all of this gets pushed over, that gets pushed down, and that is our first row of concrete, and this will trigger 4 times before anything happens. So we will have 4 rows of 8 pieces of concrete equaling 32. And then there's this crafter system right here. This is the same thing over here. This is a signal strength of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is the crafter that counts the number of rows of concrete we've got so far. And if I just stand here and hold down on the right click button until it reaches 8 pieces of concrete again, it's going to go ahead and push that down and then continue to cycle signal through, and I can just keep going. If we check again, there are 2 pieces of redstone dust, signaling that there are now 2 rows of concrete in the block. There are now 3 rows of concrete in this block, and you really can't see it, but there are 7 pieces of concrete up in the cube that are ready to queue up the TNT. But before I do that, I just want to show you there are 7 pieces of redstone. If we add 1 more, it will trigger the block to drop, which will then trigger this counter to add the 4th and final redstone in this counter, which will then trigger this circuit right here on the red. And what this circuit does is it sends a signal to this dispenser right here, which drops the TNT down the middle, and then this pulse extender will actually push these pistons down longer than they normally extend to allow the TNT to drop and give it time to explode and drop all of the items so that there is no risk of anything getting stuck up here and blowing up the rest of the contraption. So this is basically a failsafe. If I drop in 1 more piece of concrete right here, we can see all of the action happen. The TNT drops down the middle, all of the concrete blows up, and that piece of ancient debris right there dropped down temporarily to allow all of the water to push any concrete into that hopper, including any that might get stuck right there. The TNT that lands and explodes on this ancient debris is actually triggering a calibrated skulk sensor that will only detect the explosion to set off this pulse extender circuit to turn off that torch and temporarily lower that piston, which lowers that block to send all of the concrete into storage. And that's pretty much how the whole thing works. I know it looks complicated, but all you really need to know is there's an input circuit, 2 timer circuits, one of them to push the pistons down and one of them to trigger the TNT and then extend the pistons for longer, and then this circuit down here to clear the way to allow the concrete to make its way into storage, and that's pretty much it. Again, you're probably not going to be able to build this just by looking at it, but if you want to try, feel free to take some screenshots as I'm hovering around here. Otherwise, let me know by leaving a like on the video if you want me to make a tutorial. And with that, let's hop back over into the survival world. All right, I got this thing built in survival. There's a couple of considerations to make when you're putting this in your own world. Number 1, light up the area. As you can see, there's XP laying all over the ground from the mobs I just destroyed. But the unfortunate thing is, this skulk sensor is calibrated to TNT, and that same calibration will also react to mob deaths. So if you whack a zombie over here and the skulk sensor picks it up, it's going to retract that. Even more importantly, if you're up here and you're producing concrete, if a mob happens to die to sunlight, for example, it's going to trigger that, and potentially, if TNT happens to fall at the right time, while that's retracted, it could break your hopper, it could break some other things around the area. So the consideration I'm going to make for that is basically to wall in the entire thing in wool. That's not wool, but you get the point. I'm going to ensure that no sound except for that TNT explosion can reach this calibrated skulk sensor. The other consideration to make is proximity to the TNT. I'm gonna hop up here. We'll demonstrate really quick. I'm just gonna throw in 1 piece of TNT for now, just to make sure this works, because I haven't actually tested it in survival yet. There's 1 layer, and I'm gonna send this all the way through until we get to 4 layers, and it drops some TNT. Okay, you saw that, right? As soon as the TNT blows up, I get whacked to the side. I am wearing armor, but here's the risk that you run. If I'm standing here dropping concrete powder, and I turn on an auto clicker and leave my computer, I run the risk of a couple of things. 1, over time, my armor could break due to the blast, and number 2, I could start losing health, which then I would start losing hunger. And once I've lost enough hunger that I can't regenerate my health anymore, I could either get blasted to death or I could starve to death. And neither of those are a good option when I'm trying to get a bunch of concrete. I probably will not AFK this a whole lot. I'll probably use it when I need it and pay attention while I'm here. However, there's a simple solution to this. And that's it right there. That's the simple solution. That's where I was standing, right there. That slab was sitting on top of that hopper. So I've moved the platform up by 1, 2.5 blocks. Now, I would also have to move this dropper system up, which would require just a slight bit of rewiring. That's not a big deal, but this will 100% ensure that I'm outside of the blast radius. I would just need to bring this wall up to here, so that I can drop the concrete straight in front of me, and the farm will work exactly how it did before, just a little bit taller. All right, everything is working like it should, and I've got a ton of walls and buildings to make, so I'm gonna sit here for a while and get myself a bunch of concrete. Once again, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you leave a like, leave me a comment. If you have any suggestions on how we can improve this design, feel free to leave those as well. And as always, it's been a blast. Thank you so much once again for supporting this video and hanging out with me today. You're all amazing people, and we'll see you next time.